Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Mind Over Mike. It is 8:24 a.m. at the moment. Just thought I'd do a recap of the last week, essentially, of attempted self-improvement and also talk about a couple of things I might be interested in at the moment. I'm just going to see what happens as we go. This last week's been interesting. I've been trying to keep on the old staying away from the things that I've noticed hold me back or bring me down, which I'm not saying is bad. If anyone has caffeine, it can be a very useful thing. I just personally need to start cutting it all back, but it's been really good actually, because I've noticed that even though I get a little tired in the afternoons, I still feel quite good about the fact that I'm not having that massive craving I used to have from drinking excessive amount of monsters a day and stuff like that. Also been doing some work on this guy called Chase Hughes. You might have seen him. If you haven't, please check him out. He's an absolutely fascinating guy to watch. He's a he's a behavioral expert. He used to work for MI5, CIA, that sort of stuff. Essentially, he talks about how to understand a person, how to read people, how to spot narcissists, how you can't spot a psychopath, which is absolutely terrifying. He also deals with hypnosis and a lot of other things. He's absolutely fascinating to study. But he teaches a course where he essentially teaches you how to hypnotize yourself into breaking bad habits and gaining new ones. I've got a few things written down here, and I'll probably cut out a lot of this because it's going to be a lot of reading for me to do to recap on my knowledge of it all. And it's been quite useful to work on and keep in mind about things. I've been doing a couple of his exercises, which I will very briefly flash on screen, but you won't be able to read that, quite frankly. I don't want you to. It's quite personal. He has this goal setting mastery part here, which I'll get into in a minute. He teaches about evolutionary psychology and talks about the Triune brain theory, which says that the brain evolved in three stages, starting with the brain stem and the reptilian brain. He actually talks about how the bottom of your brain is a spinal cord. I can't remember what it's called, but it basically means like horsetail, because the nerve endings at the base of your spine separate out like a horsetail. He talks about how the brain stem with the reptilian brain is down here, and then you go up a little bit further up, just above your brain stem, you've got the mammalian brain. This is the bit where he deals with most of his focus, because the mammalian brain is the part of our brain that we share with dogs and chimps and bonobos. It's the animal part of the brain that will make the decisions subconsciously that you're unaware of, or the emotional decisions that you're not particularly wanting to make, or sometimes you might want to make them. And this is basically the process in how to train that side of your brain. Then it goes up into the mammalian brain. You've got the neocortex, which is where the majority of your brain seems to look if you end up looking at a diagram. If I have figured out how to, I'll throw up an image on the screen at the moment. I don't know if I have. There might not be something, but if there is, well done, Mike. And the neocortex, according to him, means cover, and it's just what covers the mammalian brain. And he talks about the fact that the mammalian brain cannot understand language. And this is why most of the time when we try to learn new habits and try to get better at things, we fall back on our old habits and we fall back to the way things used to be. Because if the mammalian brain can't understand language and you keep telling yourself, I need to do this, I need to do that, I want to do this, I want to do that, eventually the mammalian brain kicks in and you fall back into whatever script you were doing before, what your brain is used to and what it's learned to do. It controls our experiences, the things like fear and attraction, etc. It lights up but doesn't work off words. It works off visual images, pain, reward, and fear. This is what causes us to make our deepest decisions. He then teaches how to talk to the nonverbal brain, and that you need visual images and emotions. When the brain believes that something is truly important to you, it looks all over for it. You probably have experienced this in times when you've really wanted something, or you've been researching something for a while, and then you start to notice that thing everywhere. Anyone who's bought a car or researched a certain type of car that they particularly wanted has probably experienced this when you eventually buy the car, and then everywhere you look, everyone seems to have that car. It's not that everyone bought the car at the same time as you. That would be ridiculous. It was always there. You just weren't noticing it before. I've always said this before because I learned this from Alan Watts, that your brain will notice whatever you're looking for because everything's out there. Whatever mindset you have, you see that everywhere. For the sort of person who thinks the world's against them and thinks that everything's shit, will see shit everywhere and will see assholes everywhere and stuff like that. It's like if you have a paranoid mentality, when you walk into a shop and you see people look in your direction, they're judgmental faces. They're things that feel negative. Whereas if you have a positive mentality, everyone you see seems joyful and seems to be like smiling at you. If you see a neutral face, your brain will turn that into whatever your preference is. It's not the case that if you've got a negative mentality that you're just built wrong. It's actually the default, what most people experience, based on the fact that when we used to exist in tribes, when we had to survive, it was beneficial for the brain to notice threats instead of opportunities. It was more beneficial for your survival if you notice something negative. So he talks about the analogy of going on the way back from a hunt and you walk past this bush every day, nothing happens, and it's just part of your normal routine to walk past this bush. If one day you walk past that bush and you hear a twig snap, you go on high alert. Your focus darts over to that thing. You first wonder if it's a threat. You get into fight or flight in that sense. And if it's not a threat, you try to look for opportunities or rewards past that point. If it was a saber-toothed tiger, you'd be running or trying to defend yourself, whereas it was a rabbit or something you could eat, then you would probably try and catch it. So he says, when the brain believes that something is truly important to you, it looks for it all over. A reference in our life, actually, is the fact that my partner Nix was looking for a certain car recently. That's why I use that analogy. And now every time we're driving somewhere, they point out the same car or the same sort of things, which they were doing before they got that car. And now they see it constantly. The more we remind the brain that things are important, the more the brain will look for it. As I put here in brackets, unfortunately, this works with negative things too. Delayed gratification is the single biggest factor in whether or not those people were successful. At its core, delayed gratification genuinely is discipline, if you ever wanted to know a definition of that word. According to behavioral experts, discipline is when the moment you are placing your future self's needs ahead of your own. So this is what he tries to teach. He has people create essentially a vision board. Now he says this, whether you want to deal with this as law of attraction or just focus or whatever you want to picture this as, the point is the science behind it works. If you maintain something in your brain, you tend to achieve those things. But you need constant reminders. I end up creating this vision board after that, which I credit ChatGPT to helping me with that, I'm not going to lie. So there may be a couple of repeat points in this, but it's my second video. He talks about how you should create an image of yourself when you're old. I'll quickly flash it on the screen here, and if I figured out how to throw up images on screen, I'll probably throw up an actual image of myself like this. He says, find an app where you can create an old version of yourself. So that you can see that every day and know that's what you're working towards. This means that the benefit to you in the future is more important than the reward in the present. In essence, when you think of your future self, you have to think, that is my number one priority. And this is what I've been trying to do for the last week. Every time I do something or want something, I'm trying to think about whether or not this thing is going to make me look back with regret or gratitude. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not been perfect. I've eaten things I shouldn't have eaten, and I've gone to bed a lot later than I needed to. This Whoop thing sends me an alert every day of an earlier time that I should be in bed to catch up on sleep debt. And yeah, it's been quite hard to stick to. But we're getting there. I'm getting more sleep than I normally do, and I seem to be one of those people that gains a lot of sleep from very little sleep. My restorative sleep, in terms of how much sleep I actually get, is always at least half of my sleep, if not more. Restorative sleep, according to Whoop, is the combination of deep sleep and REM sleep, as opposed to light sleep. Or awake points, which I seem to wake up a lot. After you have discipline for long enough, it is no longer discipline, it becomes a habit, which is what we're working towards at the moment. Now, he teaches this self-brainwashing formula. And he says this also works in terms of trying to brainwash anybody. So use this with caution and don't be a dick. He says that the acronym for this brainwashing formula is FEAR. Interesting choice, but okay. It stands for focus, emotional involvement, agitation, and repetition. You need to make it so important that it has your undivided attention. In terms of yourself, you need to remove distractions and make sure you're focusing in the moment. Make sure that thing is important to you. If you're doing this with somebody else, he says use novelty, because novelty draws focus, such as the analogy of using the snapping stick in the bush. It was novel. It wasn't the same thing that usually happens for them. This is something sensory. So you need the emotion to be involved for a behavior to change. The animal brain needs emotional and visual stimulation on a regular basis. That's why he says make a vision board. They work. Next, he talks about agitation. Something in your life needs to be disrupted. to trick the mammalian brain into thinking that it's a new environment. He talks about with his clients that you would paint your walls or rearrange your furniture or change your workspace, change the time you get up, that sort of thing. I've been getting up earlier. I've changed my workspace into this as opposed to what would normally be on the sofa over there. Don't get me wrong, it would be better if it was in a different room or I could change the way it looked, but currently I can't alter this room that much. My partner and I are in the process of buying a house at the moment, so we're going to get a very different environment soon. That's going to be a massive benefit to that. And then I ended up writing here, need to pay attention to what is going on. Wake up at a different time, move routines around, move furniture around, change the lighting. Signal to the brain this is different to what you are used to. So it is forced to pay attention. For the broken speaking, I'm getting better at reading out loud. Yeah, I've always struggled with it. Call it dyslexia, call it whatever you want. It's something I struggle with. Then we move on to repetition. Simply put, the more you do something, the stronger your neurons will bond together until you don't have to remind yourself to do the thing anymore. This seems fairly obvious, to be honest. It's just the case of the more you do something, the better you get it. Practice makes perfect, all that lot. But it's more like practice makes habit. And the discipline you need is the practice. The analogy he uses for this, it's a little odd, but I quite like it. Imagine there's a field fully grown over with grass, and you walk the exact same pathway through that field every day, back and forth. And even other people join you on it. Over time, that grass gets pushed down, and over time, the grass stops growing there, and then there is a pathway there. And then everyone who goes there in the future will see a pathway and will be more likely to take that pathway. This is like how your brain would work. If you do it enough times, you will carve out a path that turns this discipline, this focused attention into a habit, at which point it'll be the easiest path for your brain to take. As we know in nature, we take the path of least resistance. This is also the same in electricity, little electrician reference there. Water does this as well. Pretty much most things in life, we take the path of least resistance. So he then talks about how many goals should you set. There's 4 categories you want to set for: the brain, the body, business, and behavior. All goals need the FEAR method: focus, emotion, agitation, and repetition. For the brain, you want to prioritize brain health. What you consume that affects your brain, you must make your mental state and psychology healthy. Everything else will crumble if you do not do this. Next, prioritize your body, as it is the vehicle to achieving your goals. The healthier your body is, the more likely you are to achieve your goals. For one, he talks about posture. This I found very useful. I've been doing a lot in the last week. He says, heart over pelvis. Position your heart so it's over your pelvis, and then your ears over your heart. It's been one of the easiest things for me to fix my posture. It's something I'm trying to sort out for a very, very long time. I've had a bad back for years now because I'd injured it on a building site. When I would see chiropractors, I would end up trying to curve the part of my back at the base too much to try to over exaggerate it and stand up really straight, which ended up causing me to have more pain and more discomfort, and ended up not doing it. Whereas this heart over pelvis, ears over heart, is very easy to remember. And also for confidence, which is one of the main things he talks about in terms of authority. You can't fake authority. You need to do the things that make you authoritative. Most behavioral things tell you how to have confidence. They teach you the byproducts of it. Look someone in the eye, shake their hand, use their name. You end up just doing those things if you are confident. Posture helps with confidence. In terms of the body, he also talks about what you put into your body. It's your vehicle to get your goals done. It's how you are going to go through and do things in life. If you don't take care of your vehicle, then you're not going to go anywhere. He makes the analogy of you're not going to pour salt and sand into your car or put a crappy alternative in because your car won't go very far. If you've got a petrol car, you can't put diesel in it. If you've got a diesel car, you can't put petrol in it. And before anyone says anything or thinks it, I am well aware that if you have a very small amount in there and then top up the rest of it in, I can't remember which right now, and probably look like an idiot, but I'm pretty sure it's that if you have, no, I'm not even going to go there. I think if you have actually no, I will go there. I think if you have a diesel and you put a little bit of petrol in it, but then you top up the rest with diesel, it can physically run, but it won't like it. So you'll get a lot of black smoke out the back. And I might have had those mixed up. If I have, put it in the comments. Let me know. Call me an idiot. So if you don't put the right thing into it, the vehicle won't do what it's supposed to do. Business. How much do you want to make? How many customers do you want to have? Have 2 to 3 business goals depending on the business. And this is just about achieving things and having something to get you towards your goals. If you haven't got a drive in life, then trust me, I got there at one point and it was savage. And finally, we talk about behavior. Possible behavior goals are: I'm going to schedule more time to focus on my self-discipline. I'm going to change my habits. I'm going to set goals better. I'm going to do work to make sure my mindset is constantly improving. And whatever other behavior goals, could be getting to bed on time. I know I've got to have that. It could be like recently cutting down caffeine to a certain time of the day. I started with saying that I wouldn't consume any caffeine past 12 o'clock. And that was still when I was drinking Monsters and stuff like that. I'm fairly proud to say I've got to the point now where I only have to have one cup of tea in the morning, and then that's it. If I'm struggling on a certain day and need an extra one, my rule is not past 9 a.m., which gives me 13 minutes to have one if I want one, which, let's face it, as I'm doing this, isn't going to happen. He can't stress this enough, thus this, which I've got to thank my sister for this, Chloe. Got me this ages ago, and I've actually started properly using it now. He said, use a journal. Always write your goals in the present tense. You cannot manage what you cannot measure. I've heard it before, and it's very accurate. If you don't keep track of something, you can't change it. So you want to make sure that you are looking forward to your future self on a regular basis. This is why that image has the older you on it, so that you know that you're working for them. You're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for them. If I was to quote Alex Hormozy, he talks about how the only person you should compare yourself to is the future you. Picture the ideal version of you, where you want to be, where you really, really want to get to. That's who you compare yourself to. Don't worry about everyone else. Now remember, the mammalian brain, the animal part of your brain, can't speak English. It needs emotion, visual, sensory, and repetitive. And goals need a why and a deadline. Track the milestones. If you track the milestones, you're more likely to actually do it as you go. I hate it when in the past I've said things and then not done them myself, so I have been, since my last video, tracking my progress, just rating yourself out of 10 every day. I started by rating my health, how I was treating my body and my mental state. I'm just basically rating it. Wednesday was a 4 because some stuff happened that made me very stressed out and angry, and I ended up resorting to a double shot iced caramel latte at 6 in the evening. We were going to see a film and I didn't want to be in a bad mood for it. How to Train Your Dragon live action, very good. With my partner and I loved the original. I'll end up doing a video at some point with my partner's partner, Tanny, an absolute film buff. So we're going to do film review channels. We actually did one a while ago as a trial run and it never got posted. We'll repair that. I think what we'll probably do in terms of schedule wise to make sure, because Descript has this awesome function where you can do a podcast over a web link. So that will be coming up at some point. I started tracking health and wealth. Same thing for Sunday. Health wise on Sunday, I only gave myself a 5. Got quite bad in terms of junk food in the evening. Got weak. And Monday got a 6 for both. I did a fair amount of work on Monday and also some progression towards my own side business. And a 6 on the Monday for health because I wasn't that great. I was quite healthy for most of the day, and then in the evening again, slipped up a little bit. Plus, Nix and I were supposed to do our Couch to 5K run last night, and we ate too late because it was very hot and wanted to eat first. And then we realized that by the time we went to do the run, it was going to start repeating. It wasn't going to be a great idea. So this morning, actually, as to why I have so much energy this morning, is we got up at 5 this morning and went for our run. We're on week 2, run 1. After this, I'll be editing all the videos for week 1, and I think Nix is figuring out the name that they want to put down for the Instagram channel, because as it's going to be a mainly joint thing, and it's going to be just like each video is going to be about both of us. None of it's going to be just me in it. So it's going to have a different name than this. I'll drop that in the next video because I doubt it'll be up by the time this goes out. That's been the last week, essentially. How long has this been going for now? 28 minutes. Damn. It won't be 28 minutes when it comes up because I'll end up clipping all this down, but that'll probably do for the first week roundup. I look forward to the next video. I don't know if the next one out will be Tanny and I talking about that stuff. My other partner, Sophie, is going to come on for a sort of interview style podcast about the extra work that she did recently. At some point, Nix and I will do a proper podcast. If you've got any sort of enjoyment or any useful knowledge out of this video, please hit the like button. If you didn't like anything or loved anything, please drop it in the comments. I'd love to read it and message you back. If you look forward to the next video of any kind, please subscribe. It means the world to me. Thank you very much for sticking around. If you're still here, you're an absolute legend. Peace and love, guys. Take care.